Heal your heart. This story isn't about pain, it's about the quiet strength that lives beneath it. You're not broken, you're just healing. He had stopped believing in himself long ago. Every failure, every rejection, every silent night had turned into a whisper inside his head. You're not enough. He carried that whisper like a weight. Each morning he woke up feeling weaker, every step heavier, every dream further away. The world kept moving while he stood frozen, wondering if he was the problem. But healing never looks like strength. It often begins in silence, in the moments when your chest feels empty and your eyes sting with tears you no longer want to hide. He didn't know that yet. He only knew something inside him hurt too much to go on pretending he was fine. One day, while wandering through the hills near his town, he sat beside a stream. The water flowed slowly, steady, and calm, untouched by the stones lying in its path. For the first time in months, he watched it without thinking about himself. The air was cool, and the sky above was painted with the pale gold of morning. He felt small, but not worthless. For once, he simply existed without judgment. He noticed how the water curved around obstacles instead of fighting them. Every rock that tried to stop it only reshaped its path. Maybe strength wasn't about pushing harder, he thought. Maybe it was about learning to flow again. He sat there for hours, letting the sound of water replace his thoughts. The memories of people who had left, the dreams that had failed, and the mistakes that haunted him all floated up like leaves carried by the current. For once, he didn't chase them, he just watched them drift away. And slowly, something inside began to loosen. Healing isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with triumph. It moves gently, like the tide. You may not notice it, but every small act of letting go rebuilds you. When he finally stood up, he realized that his pain hadn't disappeared, but it had softened, the way a storm fades into a drizzle before clearing the sky. The next day, he did something small. He opened his window. The day after that, he took a walk through the same hills. Each step still hurt, but it hurt less than before. Healing, he realized, isn't a single moment of light. It's 1,000 tiny choices to keep walking even when it's dark. He began writing again, not for success or approval, but to understand himself. Each word he wrote was a small act of forgiveness. The tears he shed were no longer signs of weakness. They were proof his heart was still alive, still capable of feeling. He began to see that strength was never about how hard he could hold on, but how gently he could start again. Days turned into weeks, and the world began to feel softer. The sunrise didn't look like another day to survive. It looked like a promise. His scars didn't disappear, but they stopped defining him. He learned to rest without guilt, to fail without shame, to cry without fear. The same world that once felt too heavy now felt like a place he could belong to again. Because healing isn't about becoming who you were before, it's about discovering the version of yourself that can survive what you've been through. And that version, quiet, resilient, gentle, is far stronger than the one who never broke. He understood finally that he had never been weak. His shaking hands, his sleepless nights, his quiet battles, they were all proof of endurance. Every time he thought he was falling apart, he was actually rebuilding in silence. Standing once more by the same stream, he whispered, not to the water, but to himself, "I am healing." The wind carried it softly through the trees, and for the first time, it didn't sound like a lie. He walked home that evening with peace in his steps. He didn't need to be fixed anymore. He only needed to be patient, because every scar had turned into a story, and every story reminded him, you're not weak, you're just healing. And if this story touched your heart, take a deep breath and remember, you're not alone on this journey. Subscribe to Life Lessons Library for more stories that heal, guide, and remind you of the light still living within you.